Hey everyone, Bipolaris. Still looking ropey today. I've got a haircut due tomorrow. Uh, Going over to see some friends, and they'll shave my head. Well, not completely, but yeah. So I'll look a little bit more together as of tomorrow. Um, just first off, a big thank you. I know I've not had a lot of views on these videos yet, but the views I have had and the responses have had have been very supportive. It just On a positive note to the start of this video, I've noticed something, and it's anecdotal evidence to say that, because I tend to typically befriend or be part of communities on Facebook that are very open and welcoming regarding mental health issues, but there does seem to be a public consciousness shift at the moment. Um, it sounds like a bit of a cheesy term, but people have seem to be adopting the term coming out about mental health, and I think it's really healthy. And I've also seen I'm in a few mental health and bipolar support groups, because there's always good advice in there, but it's also nice to you know lighten the load somehow. And a lot of people who would have previously refused help have been putting up statuses and posts saying things like, I've had enough. I'm fed up of feeling this way. I'm going to the doctor. And I get a little world up thinking about it, because I think it's amazing. I think there's this big shift going on, and it's amazing to sit back and watch something like this on a societal level start to unfold. It's something very, very positive. So I'm really glad that this is happening. Do excuse me. I'm a terrible chain smoker. So my sleep's still a little all over the place, but I will. I'm going to keep working tonight, and I've got stuff to do that I need to get done. Um, so although I'm in quite good, I'm having an up phase at the moment. I do want to talk a bit about depression, because I actually feel that's really the tougher part of mental health to deal with. I think is a lot harder. Um, if I just went up every now and then and went back to normal, I don't think I'd really have many problems. It's depression that seems to, like all this momentum that I'm gaining, that when I hit depression, I'll hit a wall. So I'll try and cover some things that I do that to some degree help. First off, medication has helped somewhat. I'm on sertraline hydrochloride, and for my American viewers, you probably know that as Zoloft, and that's helped with my anxiety to some degree as well. Now, what I'd say is, for any of you that aren't medicated or are afraid of medication, I'll say two things, one of which I've said before, but um, the other, I don't think I have mentioned, is firstly, it doesn't cure you. It doesn't like magically change your state, and at the same time, it doesn't turn you into a zombie. What you'll probably find is you'll just start to find this little the edges are taken off of things. It softens it somewhat to a point where you can actually think a little bit more. And I think combined with talking therapy, which is what I'm waiting on at the moment, as well as further assessment and referral to a psychiatrist, um, yeah, like those in combination will help you. That's the sort of professional route. Obviously, you don't have access to that 24/7 whenever you need it. Now, obviously, if you are feeling suicidal, if you are feeling very depressed, if you are feeling sort of quite frantic about your situation, pick up the phone, call the helpline, call your friends, or simply walk yourself into a hospital and check yourself in. If you voluntarily submit yourself, it's a 72-hour stay, and if you volunteered yourself, you're much more likely to be able to leave voluntarily, as long as you're not really sort of out of control. But if you feel yourself sliding down that path, do go. From various accounts I've seen of people sharing their experiences online, if you volunteer, it's a much less frightening experience because you're in control at that point. It's a choice. It's not you've been dragged kicking and screaming because you're a danger to yourself and possibly others, though more likely yourself. And the other thing that I've said is I view medication as, and as others do, it's a stabilizer. It's it's breathing space for you to get better, particularly if you're bipolar. But actually, no, I think this applies equally to depression. Is that it gives you breathing space to be able to make some changes in your life, maybe get the therapy that you need to push forward and identify areas and triggers or things you need to work on. The other side, brain fart again, sorry. The other thing is like, hopefully you will encounter medical professionals whose view is the same. If they share that view, that hopefully it is it might be a few years that you are on medication, but there are people I've seen who've reached a very stable level, have very healthy lifestyles, physically as well as mentally, that allow them to manage their condition without medication. It's just good to know that, if you did hit another rough patch, you could go, well, medication helped before, therapy helped before. I'm having some struggles, and I've identified it a lot earlier this time, so it will take less time to recover, and I have that little bit of life experience to push forward. So that's the medical aspect of dealing with it. What else can you do? Good support, even if it is only reaching out to people online. I'm part of a wonderful community where we share. There are trans people there are gay people there who feel they can't come out to their families. There's a few bipolar people, and there are a lot of people struggling with depression, or just very much not in the best place in their life right now. And it's a very open community. So find places like that. I'll leave that up to your discretion. Oh, bugger. Oops. Almost like a meteor shower. The other thing, I found that I'll introduce you to him at some point. It's late, so he's asleep. But I'll introduce you to Jim, my little bearded dragon. And on bad days, he gets when I want to stay in bed, I get out of bed and go see to him. I feed him, I give him some water, I clean him out, and give him a bit of fuss. And sometimes just watching him eat, it just makes me smile, makes me really happy. Even if everything else is absolutely shit, I just look at him and go, oh, he's happy, and that I made, he's an animal, but I made him happy, and he does return that affection. It's a very sweet animal, as you'll see when I introduce you. But you yourself, you might want a cat, you might want a dog. It's just that little bit of responsibility actually seems to drive me. And my mum was telling me about someone who we don't know for definite, but we imagine bipolar, and she was having a really rough time, and she got taken in forcibly because she was not having a good time. And my mum saw her recently. She's got a dog, and she's very much in a good place. And people, she said, my mum said to other people she's spoken to, when they see her, they identify with the dog, but it gets her chatting, it gets her sociable. Having the dog is company, and it sort of really helped her. So I would say having a pet is, if you're financially able to, is do a rescue as well, because then you're doing something good. You're doing something very very helpful. I'm going to tilt that camera because I look a little unlevel. It's driving me crazy. Sorry, yeah. So that can help. I think the other thing is, you might not want to do anything. You might find that you have a decreased interest in leisure activities. So even if you're not quite up to the point where you want to deal with people, I'd at least recommend getting some form of hobby that you could do, whether it's sewing, reading, getting yourself into a good series, maybe a list of books and films, and maybe games as well, that would just hold your interest a little bit. Um, if you're really in a difficult place as well, I recommend, and this is not viable for everyone. I'm in a lucky position where I can't really afford to live properly, but I can live and sort of try and work at my own pace, and reduce the stress from work. Sorry, it's just bugging me. Yeah, and you try and reduce any stress that you can in your life. This is easier said than done, because often you'll find you're neglecting things and pushing things back because you can't cope. But in any way possible, reduce your workload, um, or if necessary, you won't get a lot, but get yourself signed off sick for a little while. Take a short break, otherwise you may push yourself towards nervous breakdown or become quite frantic as things get on top of you. If you are in that position, I realise that not everyone is, but you need to do what you can to reduce stress. I'm trying to think what else is exercise, and I know it's the last thing you want to do when you're feeling depressed. You have no energy and you don't care, but it honestly will get you quite pumped. Get yourself some upbeat music, put some headphones on, go for a run. You don't have to go to the gym. You can go for a cycle, you can skateboard, you can lift weights at home. Personally, I'm looking out for a rowing machine, because I want to get back into shape, and I know it helps regulate your brain chemistry when you exercise more. Obviously, again, same as medication, it's not going to do the trick by itself, but it will give you a fighting chance, because when you're in a low energy state, when you're out of shape, your brain is not operating at optimum capacity, because it's not filling up with other chemicals, and you're in a low energy state. And I don't mean that in a woo kind of way. I mean, you're in a physically sort of low amount of energy. So exercise can be quite helpful. Let's hope I don't set myself on fire this time, shall we? Hmm. This is just a cigarette, by the way. So yeah, that's a factor. Definitely exercise, I think, is good, and it's something I need to include in my routine. I'm just hoping to get a rowing machine, because I enjoy that. I enjoy that. It's a good form of exercise. I can do that at home regardless of the weather, because if I did running, as soon as it gets to winter, I'm not going out. So not that I've got anything against running, just I would only want to do it if it was hot all year or sunny all year. Uh, so there's that. I mean, that's as much as I can advise from my side of things. There's some of the things that I think can help. It's a very hard state to deal with, because it can be so debilitating, and it can really be toxic to your thinking. There is another side of that I've learned from my own research, and it coincides a lot with NLP and CBT, but I think I will cover that in another video, which is more about your internal thinking, and maybe tackling that. But I just wanted to address a few things that might help, might be pertinent to your situation. As always, defer to a professional. I've got a lot of experience, been studying psychology and mental health for like the last 8 or 9 years, in private. I should probably take a qualification at some point, just to put a few letters after my name. Get an ology. Could be a doctor. I've got an ology. For those of you who remember the old advert. Yeah, I hope that's been helpful. Feedback in the comments or messages or whatever whatever you choose to do, you can get in touch with me. But do go out and try and find like-minded people. The attitude is changing. You do not have to be ashamed of having any mental health difficulties at all. Society's view is changing, and people are becoming more aware of what it is and how it affects people. And I think it's really important that we take that seriously and extend sympathy or no, not sympathy, extend empathy towards people who are struggling right now, because it's a tragic waste to see your life slip away due to depression. It's a waste, and It could be so much better for all of us. So thank you for watching, thank you for everyone for the wonderful feedback, and I'll see you in the next vlog. Thanks guys.